Short people unite. Good morning. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce our keynote, who hails from a very small school district in south central Washington, Zillah. But I believe that many of you out here in the audience already know him. I had the pleasure of meeting Jeff many years ago. It's not that many years ago, when he was part of a project that some of you out here in the audience might remember, the Bill and Melinda Gates Teacher Leadership Project. I met Jeff when he was part of that project. Jeff is passionate about teaching and believes that everything that we do as educators should be about the students in the classroom. He was selected as the 2013 National Teacher of the Year, and I have no doubt that you will be enlightened this morning by his message to you all. Please help me welcome Jeff Charbonneau.
Wow. I'm supposed to enlighten you. Awesome. Nothing like high expectations. This can be great. Well, thank you so much for letting me be here. My name is Jeff Charbonneau. I am the 2013 National Teacher of the Year, which makes me this year's has-been of the year. I was also named as one of the top 50 for the Global Teacher Prize. 50 educators from around the world were selected for that, which means basically that I'm incredibly highly overrated. Okay? You see, a lot of people screw this up, and a lot of people say, oh, all right, we're going to see the National Teacher of the Year. That's one of the best teachers in the U.S. If this is the best we got, we're in trouble, people. Okay, we are. See, you have to understand, I am not the best teacher in the United States. I'm not the best teacher in Washington State. I'm not the best teacher in the Zillah School District. I'm not the best teacher at Zillah High School. I'm not the best teacher in my building. There are only 2 of us in the building. I screw up each and every day. There are people from the Yakima Valley that are here today. I saw Mo Broom. I saw Forrest Fisher. I saw a bunch of folks. You know I screw up on a daily basis, okay? You've seen this stuff. That's what teaching is, isn't it? I mean, isn't teaching a little bit about screwing up along the way? Isn't teaching a little bit about trying something new and failing at it? I mean, that's why we're all here, right? Is we want to figure out how we can fail next. I mean, that's the whole point to this thing, right? I mean, really, how can I fail next? You know, I think about this a lot. You know, the other morning, I was getting ready for class. I was teaching yesterday in class, and I pulled out, right when I woke up, pulled out my cell phone and said, hey, Cortana, is there a new lesson that I can do? And I jumped over and grabbed my Microsoft Surface Pro 3 and opened up OneNote, and then went into my classroom and was using OneNote class. Anybody else notice that Microsoft's a sponsor today? Totally 100% true, though. I use all of these different things in my classroom, and half the time I fail at it, and half the time it's amazing. Half the time it's awesome. You know, because really, as an educator, I think it all boils down to asking one simple question. If we ask this of ourselves, what if I did something different tomorrow? It'll end up being so much better than getting into class tomorrow and saying, what the? What if is a much better statement, isn't it? How many of you ever walked into class and said, what the? Yeah, because things happen. Those of you that have subs right now, guess what you're going to say on Monday? Oh. It happens, right? It happens. So as educators, I think we need to start asking what if a lot more than reacting to the things that happen. We got to be a little bit more curious. We got to be a little bit more dangerous in the things that we try. I mean, after all, let's get that curiosity to come back. I mean, you know, I tell you what, I teach high school chemistry, physics, and engineering. Yeah, that's normally the reaction that I get. I mean, how many of you voluntarily signed up for high school chemistry? I said voluntarily, fakers, okay? You know, I teach these courses, and every course that I teach actually counts for college credit. I'm an adjunct faculty member at Central Washington University and Eastern Washington University, so that when you're taking chemistry from me, you're actually getting college credit for it. We talk about wave-particle duality. We talk about quantum mechanics. We take nerd to a whole nother level, right? But you know how many kids come to me? They come to me and they say, Mr. Charbonneau, I can't take your class. Why? You know the answer. Because I'm bad at math, right? Or I'm bad at science. And yet, I look at my son who's in the 2nd grade, and he cannot wait to learn about science. He gets so excited about it. So where do we lose the curiosity along the way? We need to make sure our kids remain curious. So when I started teaching, I was a biology teacher. After all, my degree is in biology, which is why I now teach chemistry, physics, and engineering. Small school, lots of job opportunities. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to teach about population ecology, then maybe we should actually, I don't know, study the ecology of populations. Maybe that would be an idea. If we're going to talk about how frogs and amphibians survive in different habitats, maybe we should go experience that. So as a first-year teacher, I went to my principal with bright eyes and said, you know what, I want to take my kids out to an orchard pond and catch frogs for 70 minutes. I can see no discipline problems with that whatsoever. You learn so much those first years, don't you? I mean, you really do. And yet we did it. We started something I call Project Croak. After all, we're going to go catch frogs, right? Project Croak. And here's what we did. We went out to an orchard pond, caught frogs, and we would measure them. Measure their snout vent length from the tip of their nose down to their vent. We would figure out what color they were, we'd figure out what sex they were, and we'd use sophisticated, high-tech technology of the time, the Palm Pilot, to collect that information. By the way, I still have all of those Palm Pilots in my room, because they're going to be useful someday. Okay, they are. We never get rid of tech. And then we would take the frog and do something kind of unique to it. We would actually individually tag every single one. Now, this is hard to see. But if you squint just a little bit down towards the bottom of the frog, slightly left in the picture, you see a little bit of orange. That's actually a piece of synthetic rubber that's been injected just underneath the skin with an alphanumeric tag so that we can individually identify each frog. We then release the frog back out into the wild, come back another week later and recapture the frogs. And over time, we can figure out how many frogs we have captured that were tagged and were not tagged. We can figure out what the population is. We can monitor trends over time. And we became the world's largest study on the Pacific chorus frog that only has a very small habitat range. But we were the world's largest study on them. And it was an amazing project. We had folks from Central Washington University that came down. We had professors that would come down and talk to our kids, and it was amazing. Our kids actually got published, and then science got in the way. You see, there was something called the chytrid fungus. The chytrid fungus is a topical skin fungus that affects all vertebrate animals. Really not a big deal for you and I to get chytrid, no big thing. But for amphibians who partially respire through their skin, it's like us getting a skin infection in our lungs. It's kind of bad. Suddenly frogs started dying left and right. Now this was amazing as a biology teacher because we could look at the population suddenly plummet. And we could talk about how disease and infection can affect different populations. And then we realized that 25 kids, 70 minutes, we were catching 100 to 120 frogs before. We're now catching 5. I may or may not have ended up in the pond 3 times. I'm fairly certain 2 of them were intentional. Okay, I really am. The discipline problems started coming in. So we eventually had to abandon the project. You know, it's not about going out and catching frogs, though, is it? I'm not here to tell you to go out and catch frogs. I'm here to tell you to find a project that your kids are interested in, something that they are interested in. So naturally, I had another project I had to go look for. So obviously, we would transition from frogs to rockets.